If you guys have watched my last two videos on the LED light bars, then you know there's only one thing left to do, and that's wiring up the switches. So I have some switches that are going to replace the OEM factory switches in my Tacoma. I'm going to show you guys how to install them today. Let's get started. So the way that most of these wiring harnesses come is they come with a push button that just has a red and green light. But what I wanted to do is integrate one of these factory switches that I could replace in the factory slots of my truck. It's just a push button with an LED light behind it so it lights up the bumper bar lettering. So the push button switch that comes with the wiring harness has 3 wires, and then we need to add an extra one in so that this button will illuminate when you turn the dash lights on. So what I'm going to do is cut this button off, and then I'm going to solder these 3 wires onto 3 of the wires on here, and then the 4th wire is going to be soldered onto this extra piece of wire that I cut. So on the switch there's 4 wires total. You have a black one, which is going to be your negative, the green is going to be your positive, and the red is going to be the one that goes to the wiring harness relay. So following these back, this is going into the wiring harness cable. You have the black connecting with the negative, the red connecting with the relay, and then the yellow is actually the 12 volt positive, which is going to connect into the green. And then with the second red wire that's next to the black one right here, that's going to connect into the extra wire that we're cutting so that it will illuminate with the dash lights. And then you have the connector that we'll just plug back in, and then this extra piece of wire here, what we need to do is wire up a fuse tap, and that's going to tap into this, and this will actually tap into the truck's fuse box, and I'll show you which fuse that's going to tap into. Both the switches are wired up, and then they wire into the same one with the extra wire that I added in for the ATA circuit. I wired both of them together just because they're going to be running off the same power source. So now we'll put the switches inside the truck and we'll be good to go. In by the battery we have the 2 wiring harnesses. The relays are just mounted right there to that bolt, and then up there is where they go through the firewall. As far as mounting locations, some people choose to put the switches in these slots right here, but mine were all full. So I'm going to be putting mine over there, just underneath the center console area. So to access that, you have to pull this part of the dash out. These are the 2 ends from my wiring harness for the light bars. The fuse that we're going to be tapping into is the 10 amp tail light fuse. And that's just located on the top row of the fuses, 3rd from the left. So the way that we're going to run this switch through is the button's going to go in last, and we're going to run the green connector through the inside of the truck. And then once the connector's through, we'll plug the switch into the connector. So what I've done, it is a little bit ghetto. The way that I chose to run this is I shoved an iPhone cable through there and I ran it through to where I could grab it from this side. And then what I'm going to do is use some electrical tape to tape those 2 together, and then I can pull it through the other way, and it's going to feed it inside here, and it's going to pop out exactly where it's supposed to by that switch. So I have the connector taped to the iPhone cable, and what I'm going to do is pull this end, and it's going to pull the connector through this back side, and then it's going to pop out on this end. And we'll do the same thing with the other connector. And then once your connectors are in place, I'll just plug the connector into the switch, feed some of those wires back in, make sure it's right side up, and push it into place. And then what I did with the wiring is the wiring comes from here, from the back, and I ran it along this bar right here. I put a zip tie just underneath right here, and I ran those cables through there. And then the connectors are just going to be sitting right here, and the fuse tap I ran behind the fuse box, and it runs right here and plugs back into that same spot, the 10 amp tail light spot. So once you have your fuse tap in and your switches in, all that you have to do now is put this lower dash piece back on, put it all back together, and everything's wired. Once everything's put back together, you can flip the dash lights on. You can see all these buttons are illuminated, as well as the switches for the light bars. I would have gotten amber if they had them, but they didn't, so I chose blue. Thanks a ton for watching, guys. I will make sure I link everything that I use down in the video description below, including the harnesses and the fuse tap. Any questions that you have, just leave them down in the comments section below. And as always, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. We'll see you around.